that a person has to have shame for the wrong things. But if people shame you for being righteous, you're Bamasali all of a sudden, to fanatic, to this, to that. Person has to not be afraid. Why? He says, no mitzvah shall be forsaken because of shame. Rather, one should be ashamed before Hashem who commanded the mitzvot. For example, a king's servant will do what his master commands him, even if he'll suffer great shame. He goes in the mud. He has to carry food and look, lowly in front of everybody. I don't care. I'm doing what the king says. That's all that matters. I shouldn't be afraid of what people say. Actually, it's kapara. When you get shamed for doing a mitzvah, you should say thank you. The guy makes fun of you. Thank you. You took all my avero. Thank you so much. Hazak baruch. Say more. It's okay. Good. Right? As it says similarly, he says being ashamed to admit the truth is an extremely serious ailment, right? Or a guy says you have the ability to reprimand someone who's under you, right? Like, let's say your kids, your employees. You say, "Oh, no, I don't want to. I'm ashamed to say anything." He says, "Not good." He says, if you're sitting in presence of your teacher, and he's ashamed to ask him what he doesn't know. Some people, they learn. They're scared. I'm ashamed to say, "Rabbi, I don't understand." "Rabbi, can you repeat that?" "Rabbi, can you explain what that means?" "I'm ashamed to say, I'd rather be quiet and not understand anything." He says, this is very bad. It's very, very bad. The person thinks, shame is good, so you'd be ashamed to do everything. No, you have to know. Judaism is all about balance. There's a time for everything, and there's a way to do it, and there's a how, and there's a when, and there's a where. And the person has to know, sometimes you have to stand up for yourself, which is for mitzvot, and for to learn. As it says, Loi Baishan Lamed. The one who is who's shamefaced, he does not learn properly. David HaMelech, what did David HaMelech say? He said, Edebra be'edotecha neged melachim velo evosh. David HaMelech would say to the kings of the world, what would they talk about? They talk about, Dubai, and this new thing that came out and whatnot. He would talk about, okay, guys, you want to hear Dvar Torah? He starts selling Dvar Torah. They're like, what are you saying, Dvar Torah? This is boring. Hey, you guys don't know what you're talking about. This is the real stuff. You guys, what you talking about is shtuyot. So he would say, I would speak like this to kings of the world. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not shamefaced. You have to stand up for the Torah. This is the right thing to do. V'chasid nikra Hashem ubusha. Whoever wants to call it chasid, chasid means from the root word of shame. As the word chasid, where do we see the chasid in the word chasid in the Torah? By the birds. There's a bird called chasidah. Right. He says, what's the chasidah? He says the chasidah is a stork, and the uncle says chivarita, the white one. Stork is usually white. Yeah. So therefore, what does it mean that a person, his face turns white? That's when he gets charpa. A guy gets embarrassed, his face turns white. So you see that chasidah is connected to white, and white is connected to shame. So he says that a chasid is mainly connection to the shame. Chasid tzarich lisbor busha kedei lekayem et Torah. He says that a person who masters the how to use shame properly in the right way, the place to be shamed, and a place not to be shamed, that's a chasid. It's funny that when you become religious, there's a very big yitzhara to not have shame. You become like borza, like get out of my way, bump people, I don't care what anybody says, you think you're autonomous, you think you run the place, and the person a guy who's just starting to become religious, he comes to shul very spokojno, I don't, is this okay? I sit here, is not okay? Rabbi, are we allowed to do this? Are we not allowed to do this? A guy who becomes religious, all of a sudden he gets comfortable, he gets too comfortable, he has no shame. So the chassid always has shame. Person has to be careful. Don't put anybody to shame. Person who embarrasses somebody else. He says, toasted. You came toasted. Doughboy, you're hungry for lunch already? Right? So they make fun of the guy, the big guy. So then he goes and he loses olam haba. It's like you murdered him. It's like you did shaita. So you made all his guts spill in front of everybody else. The pain of humiliation is more bitter than death, the sages say. The Gemara says we learn from Tamar. That what? It's better that you go and Juan, do you mind closing that door? Thank you so much. It smells. Yeah, the better that a person should go and throw himself in the fiery furnace. Tamar was willing to throw herself into the fire than to embarrass Yehuda. Whoever this belongs to, let him announce. Who am I to say and embarrass him in public? Now listen, you have to reprove your friend. You have to give tochacha, but why in public? Why in public? Sometimes people have beef with each other. Take it on the side. Go privately. Hash it out. All of a sudden, you see the guy in a party. I don't like you. You have a big problem. You think you could do whatever you want. Da, 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 da. Okay, the Rambam says if somebody hurt you, you're allowed to say something to him. You're allowed to say, why did you hurt me? Why? You have to apologize. But do it privately. Why? You have to embarrass him in front of everybody. Why? You have to make a fight in front of everybody. So therefore, you don't want to embarrass him. How should Keitzat tochiach? Betchila besetu benahat. You gotta first come privately and gently. Listen, you gotta give him like a listen, I love you, you're my brother, you're my friend. If I was doing this, I would want you to say something to me. That's why I'm saying something to you. He says, but if in the beginning, mitchila barabim tivayshehu, as tekaber alav chet. He says, but if you humiliate in public, people working together in the business, he goes, you don't know how to work. What, you don't know how to count money? Where's your brain? What, mine it is, right? So he goes and he does it in front of everybody. So now right away he gets a big sin for that. You just killed him in front of everybody. That's it. Nobody respects him. Everybody thinks that you think he's garbage now. You killed the guy. So therefore a person has to be careful not to do that. If you want to tell him privately, what happens? The whole Beit HaMikdash was destroyed because Kamsa bar Kamsa. What did he say? He didn't get upset that he got thrown out. He said what? The rabbi saw and didn't say anything. So you see that? Because people saw and I got humiliated. They didn't say anything. That's what killed him. It's not that he got thrown out. Even if the room was empty and he got thrown out of his house, he would have went home and moved on with his life. Because he got thrown out and it was embarrassing. Nobody said anything. That's why he got upset. Therefore, how much more so in Torah learning? When people learn, sometimes they get upset and they get involved, biased. They say, how could it be that you're saying like this? Orchot is nice. What are you saying? You don't know anything. So over there, even when you're learning, you can embarrass something like that. He says, finally, one more. Lo yomar adam berabim beyachidi ploni ratzan liiten li bito ve'ani lo ratziti ota. Ki bazeh uneten kavod le'atzmo busha lechavero. This is what a lot of men fall into. They put down others in order to give themselves kavod. He said, what's his name? Yeah, he wanted to go his daughter with my shidduch with my son. I told him no. I told him it's not for me. They're not on my level. You understand? I'm VIP. I only brand name last name. Money marries money. That's it. They're not for us. So therefore, Chas Shalom, he gives kavod to himself like that. It's also busha. For the ones, a person always has to be ne'levim, v'lo min ha'orvim. You should pray. You should always be the ones getting shamed, not the ones who shame others. Shom'im charpatam ve'enam meshivim. But the son heard the moon complaining, and the son didn't say nothing. That's why Hashem made the moon small, and the sun became actually bigger. And in the time of the organuz is hidden. That's why Hashem made that the sun gives off light, gives off health. You need vitamin D, photosynthesis, all these things because the sun was quiet. And we have to be Oavav ketzet shemesh begvurato midah keneged midah. When you hear your disgrace and your face turns colors, Hashem says, "I'll brighten you more than the light of the sun." So we zocheh to be able to we'll finish Shara Busha today. We finish over here. And a person has to know that B'ezrat Hashem, we should be shamefaced, and Hashem will give us the honor in the end of days. Baruch Na'olam.